Hello, I'm DIY Dick and thank you very much for joining me back on the channel again tonight. Tonight we've got some work to do with a vacuum cleaner which, as you can see in front of me, is in bits. So as you've noticed, I've actually already started this and it wasn't something that I was actually going to share either, but this became such a pain in the backside. I thought it might be useful for others because when I was looking around for some help for this, I didn't really find much in terms of YouTube or anything else. So I thought, well, this seems like an ideal opportunity for me to make a video and see if I can help some other people and also as well help them not repeat some of the mistakes I've made. Now, what's actually wrong is the lower hose for the vacuum cleaner because we had a loss of suction, and no, it didn't get this way all by itself. That was something I did before, or as I was actually trying to remove it. Yes. Now you're going to have to believe me that there was actually a genuine loss of suction, and there was basically a splitting this much smaller than the split and the carnage which you can now see. So if you go to the manufacturer, what they actually want you to do is actually replace the whole bottom unit, brush bar and everything for about £70, which is an awful lot of money just for a split pipe. So after quite a lot of searching, managed to find a replacement pipe on eBay. So hopefully that's going to do the trick. And we're going to be able to put this back together. So I've also got various screws which I've put in a magnetic parts tray and some tools. So hopefully we'll remember where those go. There is a little bit of choice because all the screws aren't the same size. So let's crack on. So moving over to the GoPro now, just to bring you in so you can see what I see. First job is to connect this new pipe into these existing plastic attachments, and this is where one of the things that we had to be very particular with the outer diameter, and you just can't go to any spare store to buy this diameter pipe. So it was an external diameter of 35mm and an internal diameter of 32, and it was just very difficult just to find that external diameter irrelevant of actually what the internal diameter was. Even if there was some variation there, that would be okay. So all this should do is actually just screw in. So let's try that. Make sure that's screwing in evenly. Yeah, you can see that now screwing in there. So that should be a really good seal. And obviously in doing this, I don't want to actually split this again because that would be ridiculous. So I think this copy part isn't as perfect as the original fitment, but I still think it's pretty damn good. Okay, so I know from doing this that this needs to actually fit in the other way, because when we put this in here, what needs to happen is this fits in like this, and if memory serves, this bit here actually needs to be on the underside in here, and we have to screw that in through some tiny little screws there. And again, I think that bit there is the wrong way up. Now I'm not sure if that is actually going to make any difference, but that is the first problem. trying to be careful as well of the electrical cable that I don't pull that, because the connectors for that are actually around the back here, and I didn't want to pull that out and then have even more work to do and try and thread through. So just try and be a little bit careful of those, that we don't cause ourselves a problem. I'm not sure that actually is going to work. Because when that's in there, that's not twisting any further, and that's not going to line up with the screws. I put it in like that. I can't even get it in like that. That's not actually even turning. Now when I put it in this way up, which is the way I thought it went, it actually moves. Put it in this way up, I can get it in. It wasn't move. Okay, so we are going to need to change this bit here. So this bit is actually on the bottom, and I think it's going to be things like this. That's actually catching somewhere in this tube, and then that's stopping that turning. So I think that's what's happening. So we are going to have to spin that around. So it's like that. But doing that, because we can't go any further in there, are we compromising this? Hopefully you can see in there, I don't think that's necessarily ideal or perfect, but I think it's about as good as we're going to get. Now when I'm looking at the seals on each side, actually it's looking pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Right, so what I've got to do now, we've actually got some screws in there. Where did I put my torch? I'll just put this up on end. So we've got a screw there and a screw over there. So I'm going to have to take those out, and then we'll fit the pipe and hopefully secure it by screwing it back in, and then we can start work on the other side. Okay, let's try and fit this back in then without the screws in place. And that looks like it's in place. Yeah, I think that is about right. So that's all well and good, but the difficult bit is actually now getting these screws back in the holes with the pipe in the way. So let's see how we get on with that trick. Especially in the dark. So little tip there, when I originally took these out, I actually took those screws out not via its side articulation, but basically straight up next to the pipe. Now that wasn't a problem because, you know, the pipe wasn't in very good condition, and yes, I did make it a bit worse in getting it out. But anyway, that wasn't going to be reused, so I wasn't too worried about it. But obviously when fitting a new pipe and not wanting to damage that new pipe, you can't really fit certainly a bigger screwdriver up there, and you need sort of something in between really to actually get it. But the easiest thing, as you saw then, was just using the side-to-side articulation of the actual attachment, and it just enables you to get to the screws. So that's fantastic. Right, now we need to put this in here. So one of the things here, that here goes level with just that hole just there. So that looks like that's in there to me, and just comes through to the brush bar. So that looks good, and I remember that not coming too far in previously. I think that's about right. Now for the life of me, I'm not sure what actually holds that in place. Let's just have a look here at the top. So looking at this and where that goes, I'm just wondering if this here actually fits over this here and therefore holds that in place and stops that moving, because otherwise that's just going to twirl about, because there's no screws in it. This bit of the side here isn't a screw hole, it's a vent. So I think that's what actually keeps that in place. But anyway, we'll come to that in just a moment. So what I've just done is got some electrical cable and just put some tape over some of these wires over here, which I just noticed from putting the tube in were beginning to chafe. So obviously I don't want to expose any live wires, so I just thought I'd put some of those over just before we just fit the rest of this back together. And talking about that, the spring is the next bit. So if memory serves, it goes in something along those lines. So you've got this bit of the spring, so this must clip in somewhere. So let's okay. Not sure that's going to give us any tension in that position, so let's just see if we can move it around. And I think, looking at the way this is going to sit, this spring is going to sit just in here. Like that. And then this is going to move like that, but I'm having to push to keep this down, so when we screw the top on, that's going to be one of the first things we're going to have to do. And let's just see if we can screw that down. Let's trying to hold everything together and keep it in place. I think as soon as you get a couple of these in place, then it'll all just hold together by itself, and then we can just get the rest in. So something else to call out here is that not everything just uses a standard Phillips. We've also got a T20 hex key as well, so just something else to bear in mind. Another little tool that you're going to have if you want to take this apart. Right, I'll tighten them up properly in a minute. I'll just try and get them just a little bit tight, just really to hold things in place as we try and get everything together. Now, we do have a size selection of some of the screws, so we're going to have to figure that out in a minute, and just making sure we use the right screw in the right place. Actually, let's not do it that tight, let's just back that off a bit. Okay, so there's some obvious screw holders here, two obviously you've just seen me do, but there's some less obvious ones, and they're some of the things that I wanted to point out, and one of the main reasons for doing this video, other than just to sort of show some of the fiddly bits to get the pipe out, because you know, some of these were very, very well hidden, and you know, this took me ages to actually get this apart. It's not exactly taking me a short amount of time to get it back together, but it took me absolutely ages to find all those bits because I just couldn't find that information anywhere. So you know, I know this isn't the the full video of taking apart and putting back together, but hopefully just the putting back together phase will enable you to see what you need to do should you ever need to take one of these apart. Right, let's crack on. So there's a couple of others, one there, and this is the sneaky one here, just there, and that was fully behind, which is showing at the moment. There we go. That was fully behind this, so when that's pressed down like that, you can hardly see it. That took me quite a while to find that one. I was trying to figure out why the front of it wouldn't come off, but anyway, we got there in the end. Right, let's get these other bits and pieces on. So we've got a couple of the screws here. And you can see a couple of different sizes, and if memory serves, it was some of these smaller ones that we used down the front. So I think this is just going to have to be a bit of a voyage of discovery and see what fits. Yeah, they seem to fit quite well. That's good. Let's do the same on the other side. So it's using the smaller one up here and the larger screw just at the bottom, and then hopefully that will keep this last bit in place. And let's just move that in a minute just to make sure that moves through its full range of motion, because otherwise we're going to have to take it apart and have a look, try and figure out what's in the way. Right, that's reasonably tight. Let's shut that. Okay, so straight away, yes, look at that, and that clips into place as well. There you go, so it can stand properly as an upright. And just make sure while we're doing that, no parts of the case are actually coming apart. No, looks good. Nothing's catching on our brand new pipe. otherwise that would kind of defeat the whole purpose of what we're doing here this evening or tonight. That looks good. That looks good, still in place. Fantastic. Right, let's just figure out now where the rest of these screws go. So these are the ones left over. Now I know where that small one goes, as I mentioned just a moment ago. And unfortunately, I've just spotted a problem. And that problem is this. As I was looking around just to see if there was anything left over. I wish I'd spotted this earlier. So this needs to come off because this little part here goes over the motor, and I think it just helps hold it in place, the brush motor that's just in there. So what we're just going to need to do is just need to take these bits off again. And fit that, and then put it back together again. So you are going to see a partial removal of all this. Right, here we go again. Well, at least that came off easy anyway. Okay, so that spring has just got caught over there. Let's get all these out of the way. So when you actually look at this, you've actually got that there, and that goes like that, and that goes in there. There we go. I think it just holds this in place because that's running the brush bar, this motor, so it probably does just to vibrate a little bit. So as opposed to vibrating in plastic and making a lot of noise, just putting a little gasket almost around it just to try and isolate some of that vibration, I think. Okay. And we've got two of these small screws left, so one goes in there and one goes just at the front here. I think they're both basically the same size. See if we can fit this one in here. not the most ideal kind of lighting conditions to do a job like this, but I think we've pretty much captured everything we need to do. So it's these screws, or this particular screw, that's very well hidden. Everything else is in. Let's just tighten everything up, and then I think we're ready to give it a test run. So really pleased that's all together now. A little bit easier than I actually thought it was going to be to put everything back together, and I think it was really helpful to just keep all of the screws and bits and pieces together, especially when you're waiting for parts, because otherwise these things will tend to get lost and disappear. So glad we haven't had that, and we've got no bits left over, which is always nice from these type of jobs. Now I would love to test this now, but it's 1 o'clock in the morning, so I don't want to wake everyone up, so we'll just have to wait to see what tomorrow morning brings, and fingers crossed it all works well. Thanks very much for joining me again on the channel, and after this success I'll be seeing you again soon with some more videos. If you like what you see, please subscribe.